Hi everybody, and welcome to another Fast Foundation Friday. And today I'm going to be answering a question that I received earlier this week from a viewer. They said that they have some asymmetry in their body. One of their legs is shorter than the other, and it has caused their pelvis to tilt so that one of their hips is higher than the other. And they were asking what sort of corsets they can wear in this situation. I do have a video on corsets and asymmetry that I made December last year, so if you want to watch that video, I'll link it right up there for you. And in that video, I suggested that you can try a corset with adjustable hip ties, and that is helpful for somebody who has one hip that protrudes more than the other. But what happens if you are literally curvier naturally on one side of your body compared to the other, or if the distance between your waist and your hip is different on one side of the body and shorter or longer on the other side? What do you do in that situation? Well, kind of like if you are shopping for a bra, you would normally buy a bra to fit the larger cup. People normally have one breast a little bit larger than the other. So if you are going bra shopping, you usually shop to fit the bigger cup, and then you can pad out the smaller cup with an insert or a cutlet or whatever you want. Same with shoes. If you have one foot that's larger than the other, you would buy your shoe to fit the larger foot, and then you might stuff the toe of the other one or wear an insert or whatever it is you need to do to have it fit comfortably. And with corsets, if you have one hip that's larger or higher than the other, then I would recommend buying a corset that is made to fit that higher or more protruding hip, so you know that it's going to be more comfortable on you. Because if you buy an off-the-rack corset that only fits the smaller hip, then the large one might feel pinchy, or it might you might start to experience numbness or tingling, which is not good. So if your only option is off-the-rack corsets and the adjustable hip ties aren't going to work for you, then buying a corset to fit your larger hip or higher hip is going to be more comfortable, and then you can pad out the other hip if necessary. What might be comfortable in a situation like this is corsets that are deliberately made with a high square hip, a very abrupt hip spring. So brands like the Restyle wide hip corset that I reviewed last year, that's very comfortable, especially if you have a naturally large hip spring and very high hips. Also, what Katie's May corset or Extreme May, it also has those the very round high hips. Actually, when I wear that particular corset, because my hips are not quite as large, I feel a little pocket of air between the corset and my body, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's pretty comfortable for me to wear. Also, Axford's C242, I believe, also has that very rounded and abrupt hip spring. If you are looking at custom corsets, there are corsetiers who specialize in a hip shelf, most notably contour corsets. Maison Moginot can also do the square hip style, and more recently Innova Corsetry is becoming very well known for this style. Although if you are going for a custom corset, you may want to approach them and ask how much it would be, or if they would be willing to make you an asymmetric corset that does fit you perfectly. Another style of corset that you can try is mesh corsets. So now that off-the-rack mesh corsets are becoming more popular, particularly the style with the fishnet style mesh on it. It does have more give to it compared to, say, an all-cotton corset with multiple layers. It breaks in very quickly. It does have, I wouldn't say stretch because it's not elastic, but it does have more give to it. And they have the ability to season asymmetrically. So brands like Mystic City Corsets, Orchard Corset, True Corset, they all carry corsets that have that fishnet style mesh in their corsets. And if you have one hip that's higher than the other, the styles that I would not recommend wearing are the styles that have a gradual sloping hip spring. So for instance, in my case, I can wear a size 22 corset depending on the style. My iliac crest is about 33 or 34 inches right now, and then a few inches down at my low hip, I'm about 35 inches. So you can see that there's not very much difference between my high hip and low hip in terms of the circumferential measurements, which means that when I buy a corset, it needs to have a more abrupt hip shelf. I know that some people don't like the look of the hip shelf, but if your iliac crest and your low hip measurements are fairly similar, there's not much difference between them, then you might need that shape in order to be more comfortable. And if you have a high hip and you are wearing a corset with a very sloping hip spring, you might notice that high hip is becoming more irritated. It might feel more pinched compared to the other side, and you may notice that your corset also starts to bend or skew. All the brands that I mentioned today, I will put a link for them in the description down below. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in these Fast Foundation Friday videos, then feel free to leave a comment down below. And if you have any sort of suggestions for what other types of corsets you can wear, if you have one hip higher than the other and you're not willing to invest in a custom corset yet, also feel free to leave a comment down below because I'm sure a lot of other people would be interested to know. And I will see you all next week for another video. Bye.